Hello everyone. So I wanted to make this video because it's actually really important right now. So this video is kind of all about how we're going to transition out of where we are with this pandemic and into the new normal. And the reason it's important is because no matter where you stand on the conversation, whether you, there's no point even going into it. No matter where you stand within what COVID-19 has brought, there is an important need to understand how this situation has created a lot of fear. It's created a lot of fear for each of us and in a lot of different ways. Now, this fear is very much starting to ingrain itself into who we are. Because, as humans, it doesn't take us very long to pick something up and recognize it as the new normal. And equally so, it doesn't take us very long to forget where we've come from. And we can see that on the bigger scale in terms of history, but also on the smaller scale of our own lives. And, we're quick to adapt to change without realizing, and at the same time we do struggle with change. So where does that kind of fit in with us? Well, what's happened, and again, regardless of how you feel, but what's happened with the way in which our government has created different guidelines and the way in which we're meant to hold ourselves, both as a person, as a human, and also how we're meant to interact with other people in our community, has created a large amount of fear, if you will. And it's up to us to kind of know how we're going to transition out of that, how we're going to move forwards, because ultimately, what have we done so far? We've managed to create a separation between where we were and our connection, not only with ourselves and other people, but also with the planet and the way that we kind of interact and engage with the land that we live on. And the way that we're going to move forward is we're going to transition out of the idea of social distancing, the idea of wearing masks. It's going to happen. Whether or not it's going to happen quickly from the government, it's something that, there's only so much fear that we can hold, and there's only so much that we can let our bodies take before we start to break and we say, okay, we've had enough. And that's, that point has already been reached for a lot of people, and it's ultimately recognizing in yourself where that is for you, where you kind of stand within knowing what's true in your head and what's true in your heart, what feels right for you, to what society expects you to do, and what you actually should be doing for yourself, should be doing for your community. Because ultimately, if we look at this from a more holistic sense, we know what we're losing. We know what we're already stepping away from the further down this path of self-neglect and the neglect of the other. The more this kind of happens, and the more we remove ourselves from ourselves, the more we're going to uh, create this this cavern, this black hole between where we connect with each other. And so it's really important that we understand that, it's going to be different for each person. Okay, it's going to we each have different limits, and we are each individual as much as we are part of a wider collective. And it's understanding how we're each going to play our part in that. Sorry, just let me adjust this. Yeah, and no one is going to be the same as another person. And like it should have been from the beginning, there should be a level of respect for what people are going through. Because, again, ultimately, however you feel about this situation, we're still here to connect with other people. We're still here to bridge that connection on whatever level we can. And now, as the game is slowly changing, if you will, we're going to be transitioning into this new stage, into this new place that's going to allow us to move forwards in a new way. And this new way is up to us to create. It's up to us to understand how we're going to have an effect on each other, how we're going to move forwards in it. And creating that is up to each and every one of us. It's understanding that we once again we're sovereign individuals. We are here to create our own truth and our own way of existing in life, and ultimately that's going to coexist with other people. That's going to feed into the narrative that we're each creating, and how we move forward within this story that we're creating and unfolding is through our own truth. It's through each of the paths that we're building and we're leading. And how we're going to create this new normal. And why do I emphasize the new normal? Because ultimately we're not going to go back to how it was before. As much as everyone says, oh, I wish it would go back to normal by now, but we're moving into the next stage of our spiritual evolution. And it's the way in which we all fit together. It's the way in which we all allow ourselves to come together in more of a unity and help create the world that we want to see. It's also a pivotal time in terms of how we engage with the higher powers, if you will, and I don't mean the spiritual higher powers. I mean the the human-based powers of government, etc., that we place our trust in. And ultimately, it's about us creating and envisaging the future that we want to see and allowing it to come into fruition through our own understanding, through our own truth, and allowing it to blossom. And that sounds lovely. That sounds great, doesn't it? But how do we do that? How do we engage with the government, the powers that control and create the law and ultimately rule our living situation and the society that we live in? Well, the first step is to kind of allow ourselves to trust in who we are. Because ultimately what what COVID-19 has given us is a situation where, for a lot of us, we can step into who we are. We've had to go through a lot of stuff. We've had to pause, and we've had to allow ourselves to really dig through all the crap that we've been through and that we've experienced in our lives, and allow ourselves to digest it. Allow us to really move through what it means to be to be an individual, and to understand where you want to move forward. And that's not the case, obviously, for everyone. It's but as a larger collective, we've been given this opportunity to dig into ourselves and really understand, who we are, or at least allow us that position to understand who we are. And the more we can kind of reflect on that and stay in a place of center, the more we can see the path that's kind of unfolding, and that is the divine path that we've been given. And obviously it's up to us to create, and it's up to us to follow the ultimate duality. But equally, the more we can step into that energy, that loving energy that is there for us to create and unfold with, the more we can see how we can play our part, and how we can connect with ourselves and connect with the larger human collective, and create the change that we want to see. And that's a journey of inwards reflection, ultimately, and it's also a journey of outwards reflection, because we're creating the outer world with our internal experience. And it's finding ourselves more into the flow of how we're going to manifest that and create that. So as we transition out of this place where we're going to re-engage with the large aspects of our community, don't be afraid of what the fear has kind of created for each person, because ultimately we're quick to adapt to new situations, but when it comes from a place of large fear, when it comes from that negative place, it's surprisingly quick how well we can adjust to that loving energy that wants to present itself to us. So the more we can open ourselves to the community as a whole, then the more we can find that level of humanity again. Because with the masks, with the social distancing, we're creating again that cavernous hole that's just stopping us from engaging with who we truly want to be, and how we want to connect. So don't be afraid to take that step. Don't be afraid to hug people. Don't be afraid to, if someone holds out their hand and wants to give you a handshake, then let them give you a handshake. Give that trust, and ultimately you're going to be rewarded for it. You can always use some hand gel or whatever afterwards, that's fine. But the connection is what is important. So thank you.